Well, thank you for joining us for our Thrive groups. We are so glad to have you here. And before we get going, we'd like to just lay out a couple of ground rules. This just keeps our groups engaging and exciting. The first thing is that everyone contributes, no one dominates. So we want to give you opportunity to talk, to share. So please engage, share your stories, share your ideas, your thoughts, but no one dominates. So let's make sure that everyone gets equal opportunity to share. Secondly, is that we believe on valuing everyone's time. So at the conclusion of the meeting, you can hang out for a couple minutes, but then let's be respectful of the location that we're in and move on. So this week, we're continuing our discussion on the good, the bad, and the ugly, specifically the tough girl. And we're going to start out with an icebreaker question, and it's, if you could have one day alone, where would you go? All to yourself. You could go anywhere in the world. Where would you go? For me, it would probably be somewhere in the mountains. I love the mountains in New Hampshire, so it would probably be there. Just me wandering through the wilderness all day. That sounds like a pretty amazing day to me. But how about you? If you had one day all for yourself, where would you go? What would you do? Okay, so now we're going to jump into scripture here. We're going to read Judges chapter 4, verses 1 through 10. So it's a big chunk here. I'll read it, and then after we can discuss it. After Ehud's death, the Israelites again did evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord turned them over to King Jabin of Hazor, a Canaanite king. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Sisera, who had 900 iron chariots, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help. Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was a prophet who was judging Israel at that time. She would sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would go to her for judgment. One day she sent for Barak, the son of Abinoam, who lived in Kadesh in the land of Naphtali. She said to him, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Call out 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun at Mount Tabor, and I will call out Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, along with his chariots and warriors, to the Kishon River, and there I will give you victory over him." Barak told her, "I will go, but only if you go with me." "Very well," she replied, "I will go with you, but you will receive no honor in this venture. For the Lord's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. And at Kadesh, Barak called together the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 warriors went up with him, and Deborah also went with him. So is there anything that stood out to you as we read through that? A lot of interesting stuff in there, a lot of names, a lot of confusing places. But if something stood out to you, why don't you share it with the rest of the group? Okay, we're back. Now we're going to have some discussion questions. The first is share about something that clouded your vision of God. For me, I've had so many hobbies in my life, and it seems like whenever I get a new hobby, it starts to cloud my vision. I start to think about it. I start to research it. It seems like every waking hour, my thought, I'm devoting energy to that, whether it's fishing or cycling or rock climbing or boating or whatever it may be, it begins to dominate my thoughts. How about with you? Maybe it's the pursuit of money, a relationship, an interest. What is it for you that sometimes may cloud your vision of God? Deborah was a very confident woman. She was a very confident leader. So have you ever felt that a time where you felt really confident, like you did something confidently? For me, whenever I pray for somebody, I don't know, I feel confident. I feel confident in the outcome. Not that I know exactly what's going to happen, but I feel confident that God is in control. And so for me, that's some of the most confident I ever feel is when I'm having the opportunity to pray over somebody. But how about you? Maybe it's with a job, a relationship. Maybe it's something to do with serving God or something like that. When is it that you have felt confident in your life? Deborah, as well as Jael in this story, was used mightily by God. Have you ever felt like God used you in a powerful way? For me, sometimes it's when I'm praying for people, like I mentioned before. Not too long ago, there was a lady in our church, and she came up for some prayer. And The doctors were speculating that some very severe things were going on in her body. And so I prayed for her, and then she went for some testing later on that week, responded back saying that the doctors didn't find anything, things were great, things were moving in the right direction. And that felt very good for me. Not that I really had anything to do with it, but that God used me in that situation to pray for her. So how about you? Have you ever felt a time when God has used you to maybe help somebody, minister to somebody, encourage somebody? Well, that about wraps it up. I hope you guys had some great discussions here today. But before we go, I think it's important for us to spend some time in prayer. This is a time to pray for each other, pray for needs in your life, pray for loved ones, whatever it is that you need prayer for. I would encourage you to just kind of bounce around the room and let people take a few moments to pray if they'd like to, and then maybe the leader can close up once enough people have gone. But just spend this time together praying to God of heaven. There's nothing more powerful than we can do than praying and talking to our Creator. Again, thank you for joining us, and let's close in prayer.